because otherwise you're going to be nobody's nurse practitioner, okay? It is warm coffee season, y'all, and this is my perfect color cup. Y'all know how y'all see those pictures where what's your favorite cup? This is mine. And I'm actually going old school with my coffee today, and it's just half and half in here. I didn't do any like special creamers. I have my caramel one in the refrigerator, but I just stuck to the basics with some regular sugar. And you guys will probably laugh at me for this, but I actually need to let my coffee cool down before I drink it, like leisurely. So I'm gonna put that little lid on it just to, you know, keep it secure and let it cool down. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Shay. Welcome back to another week in the life of an MP student vlogs. Today is Tuesday. We're starting off the week a little late, but basically today I have a day off. I was gonna go to clinical, but I decided to stay home to try to finish some clinical notes that are due tomorrow, as well as get up on my studying. And I think I'm gonna start with my studying first. So I'm gonna be doing my textbook and just going through and reading some of the chapters that I need to go through for the week. So I'll take you guys along with me with that. One thing I did notice about my last exam that I took is I thought I read, but I don't think I read everything I was supposed to read. So a lot of the stupid questions that I think I got wrong was because I think I overlooked my reading. So I've been trying to stay track of my reading. So I'm going to try this thing today where I like screenshot the weekly reading, cut it and paste it into the thing so I can kind of check it off as I go, because they use 3 different texts in our didactic class, which I don't like. I think I told y'all that in the beginning of weeks, but there's 3 different texts, so I have to try to go into 3 different texts and read. And I think my last exam, I know I read all in one of these texts, but I didn't read the rest of them because it was just a lot. So I'm going to try to stay on top of that so I can hopefully get a better grade this time. But yeah. You guys see I'm in my sweatsuit today. I'm actually going to grab one of our books. This is the one I actually did read through. If you guys are in a MP course and it's outpatient, this is a great book. It's easy reading. As you guys can see, it was on my nightstand, and I literally read this at bedtime, and it's like an easy read. It cuts out a lot of fluff. It's not going to give you all the critical thinking information you need, but it's going to give you the gist of like diagnostics, treatment plan, what to watch for, signs and symptoms, things like that. So I've been like loving this. As y'all can see, I got my index cards and like my flags in here. But I'm going to try to get into my textbook on my iPad. So let me get set up. I always walk through here and forget that the thing's going to make noise. And I just want to tell you guys too, if I ever get bored when I'm reading, my book does, with it being an ebook, and you should check this out, have a text to read method. So if sometimes I'm like just sitting here, I'm like, oh, my eyes hurt, I'm tired. You can actually, I think it's down here. I'm going to try to see if I can. And then I can hit play at the top. Y'all gonna be cracking up because I've been trying to show y'all this voice to text basically method of my ebook, and every time I do it, it reads something crazy, like something weird. Like this is the men's and women's health chapter, so it was on the women's health stuff, and I was just like, I cannot put that on YouTube because somebody is going to flag me. So let's attempt this again and see if she will cooperate. Go down to like the little megaphone, and then if you go to the top, you hit play, it's gonna read. So let me show y'all real quick. Let's pray on this, because if she says something crazy, I'm gonna have to record this again.
In men, nocturia is currently defined by the International Continence Society as having to wake at night 1 or more times to void.
So there y'all have it. So like I can be like studying after I get done reading all this. I can just sit her up on my little like iPad stand, hit play, and have her reading while I'm like doing stuff in the kitchen, doing stuff around the house, etc. So I think that's like a good way. If any of you guys are audio learners, you should check to see if your book has this feature. This is my primary care book. I'll go back to show y'all. It's one of the F.A. Davis books, and it's in the app called Bookshelf. This one right here called Bookshelf. And y'all see my text. And like I said, you hit the megaphone at the bottom and you're able to get it to read to you. So let me get into some reading though. Y'all, I'm trying not to get distracted. I'm gonna do some reading until, I don't even have my watch on. It's 10:30, so I'm gonna do some reading maybe till like 11:30, 12 o'clock. And then I'm gonna try to work on some of my little concept map things I do, and also then I can move in towards the afternoon to doing the clinical notes and other stuff that I need to do. So
common conditions affecting men older than 40 years. The prostate gland is a walnut-sized gland positioned at the base of the bladder.
So there's 2 more concept maps that I need to do for men's health. I did BPH. I need to do prostatitis, prostate cancer, and then nocturia in men. And of course, I'll go back to my geriatric notes because a lot of our focus is the older adult to kind of confirm. So that's still on my list for reading. So that, and then our Collins Bride book is a lot of like clinical guidelines. So I will also try to review that. And then I will be done with all these notes, and there's some miscellaneous files and videos that my teacher posted for us to review. Now, I keep looking at my wrist for the time. It's 12:30, so that was a good about 1 hour, 2 hours of just reading through the chapters and kind of starting at least on my concept maps or my written outlines for myself. This will also help too because our teacher doesn't really give us a study guide. They literally give us a topic outline, and I tell y'all this all the time. Don't believe the topic outline because they give you a topic outline and half the crap don't be on there, and then the stuff that's on there or on the test don't even correlate with the outline. So what I'll do is I'm going to be using, this time when I study, I'm going to go back to these little maps that I made and use them to help me outline my study guide, I like to call. So I did a similar one. You guys will see I started doing this earlier. I have one on Parkinson's too, where it's just, I like this one. There's so many pretty colors, where I did the same thing: risk factors, clinical presentation, definition, diagnosis, differentials, like I told you guys is important, and then treatment plan, of course, for the provider. So these have really been helping me. So if you guys have Notability, I know Good Notes is another one. You can and there's so much you can do. There's so much I'm not even doing that you can do that you guys don't see on mine. You can cut and paste pictures. You can take pictures out your textbook and screenshot them and paste them into these maps. It's helpful. So I'm moving right along for this day, but I think I'm going to go ahead and try to close up with this so I can begin to, what is this? But I'm going to go ahead and try to finish up on this. This was my 2 hours of reading and going through stuff so that I keep getting distracted because somebody is riding around the neighborhood and I don't know who they are. Again, y'all see how I get distracted? I'm going to try to finish up with this so I can start working on my clinical notes because my clinical notes are due tomorrow. Both of them, I pretty much have them outlined. One is going to be focus on a patient that presented with dizziness, and I'll tell y'all a little bit about that as I'm working on a note. And then my other one is going to be presented on a patient that came in for shortness of breath that actually ended up being atrial tachycardia, which I'll give you guys some patient, I know you guys like the patient presentation, so I'll give you guys a quick synopsis. I think doing my clinical note will help me, but also talking to you guys about it will help me too, so. Alright guys, I am still here. I did finish my first clinical note, which I can go ahead and kind of give y'all the patient synopsis on that one. And then the second one I'm working on, I'll talk to you guys a little bit about because it is a little bit more complicated. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to go through everything. But My first clinical note, I'm going to try to break this down in layman term because I realized when I was talking about this before, I was using so much medical jargon. And it's kind of funny because I always said I would be the nurse who doesn't jargon it up. But it's hard as you transition into a provider role. You realize when you're doing like interdisciplinary care, so with like your colleagues, doctors, PT, OT, etc., you use medical jargon because that's the way you communicate. So then when you go to talk to your patients, you kind of have to get yourself together and realize that, okay, it's time to get back to your bedside basics. So anywho, we have a patient, older gentleman, present to office for dizziness, experiencing over a month. Recently got diagnosed with BPH, which is benign prostate hyperplasia. I can never say it right. And it's funny that we're talking about that because you guys know I was just doing that in the studying I was doing, but just got diagnosed with that, enlarged prostate and other things. It's been experiencing dizziness for quite some time, etc. So he came to the cardiology office for his follow-up. Physical examination. One thing we did notice on physical examination was that when we did his vitals, my preceptor was like, go ahead and do orthos. So blood pressure went from like 105 over something laying down supine or flat to like 100 over maybe 60 sitting on the side of the bed. And then when he stood, he was like 93 over like 50. It was crazy. So I was like, oh, this is orthostatic. So we definitely had to take a look at some of the medications that the patient was on. Remind you, I just told you guys that this patient just got diagnosed with enlarged prostate, BPH. So when you're treating BPH, urologists, primary care, whoever will put patients on medications called alpha blockers. And although alpha blockers are supposed to be selective to only the, bladder, neck, and the prostate or whatever, unfortunately, they can have systemic effects and still affect like smooth muscle of like your other vessels and etc., which will contribute to low blood pressures. So basically, in layman's term, the medication side effect is low blood pressure. Now, here's where you get into it. Most of y'all think, okay, side effect, low blood pressure, take the patient off the medicine. Let's think about the patient's lifestyle. Why did they originally go to the doctor in the first place for BPH? Were they having issues with incontinence? Were they having issues with dribbling, etc., things like that? So why am I going to take a patient off a medication that's benefiting them in other ways of their lives? And while us in cardiology, we're still prescribing antihypertensives. So long story short, what we actually did, and I was kind of a little proud of myself because my preceptor was like, okay, you tell me what you want to do. I was like, all right, well, we got this patient on antihypertensives. Let's split the antihypertensive in half because I don't want to take them off completely and their blood pressure shoot back up. But I also want to kind of be gentle and see if maybe we can take them off of it. So let's take the antihypertensive medicine, which I think this patient was like on a sartan, maybe a losartan or something. Let's split the dose in half. So like, for instance, if they were on 100 milligrams, let's go down to 50. Keep them on their BPH medicine. Have them do a blood pressure log. It doesn't have to be every single day, maybe every few days. See if their dizziness improves, and then let's reassess in a couple weeks. So that's what we ended up doing. Instead of us, targeting the medication that's helping them, we actually took the medication that we had prescribed originally for hypertension, or high blood pressure, which might not even be occurring right now because that alpha-1 blocker is on board. So that's what we did with that patient. And it's important when patients come in for dizziness, some people might throw it over their head and say, okay, here we go again. But especially when you have patients over like 65, you guys know falls are like the number one contributor to mortality or like death and even just bad outcomes in older adults. And our older adults, we have baby boomers. They're still active. They're still moving. Anything we can keep them on that track, we want to do. So if we have a patient that has dizziness, they're not going to want to do all the things they want to do, which that patient did say, because they're always feeling dizzy. So why am I let them feel dizzy when we can kind of like adjust meds and do stuff to kind of help them? So that was that patient situation. Now the next one I'm going into with this clinical note is a little bit more complicated. Probably should have talked about it first because because I'll need more time. But this one has to do with a patient in their high 80s that came in for shortness of breath that was brand spanking new. And we also noticed that in their echocardiogram, or the ultrasound of the heart, the EF, which is like the force and the contractility and etc. of the heart. I know I'm not explaining it right, but I'm trying to put it in layman's term. Basically, it's a number that kind of tells us how good your heart is working, was low. So we compared that number to the test that was done a few years ago, and it was a big drop. Like, it went from like 60% to like 30 to 35. And we're like, okay, well, this is a big drop. You don't have any valvular issues. You don't have anything else like that. Why is this occurring? So we looked at the EKG, and my preceptor literally passed it to me and told me, what do you see on this EKG that looks weird? And first thing I noticed is the patient was super tacky. Heart rate was like in the 1-teens, and the patient wasn't doing anything but sitting on the side of the bed. Second thing I noticed was the P waves were inverted or negative, if is what they call it. So I was like, the P waves are negative. That usually means it's junctional, but this is tachy, so I'm confused. And he was like, okay, so let's talk about this. So sometimes when we have patients with negative P waves, it means that the tachycardia that we see in the EKG is coming from the atrium, or they call it ectopic atrial tachycardia. So he said, let's put it in this way. This patient's EF went down drastically. What if, because this patient's been in this tachycardia for so long, the heart is working harder, it's causing it to have, less like function, and that's why this number went down. So let's think about it. If we correct this tachycardia, we might be able to correct this EF, and then the patient's not classified as congestive heart failure. So I was like, oh wow, this is interesting. So I'm trying to take that approach with my note. I hope my teacher will understand it, because my teacher did tell me they wanted me to make the note interesting because they know it's all cardio. So I'm explaining in my note that while I'm going to tell you about the plan of care for a patient with congestive heart failure, because we still have to treat her for congestive heart failure because that's the way she's presenting, and she's having shortness of breath, she has leg edema, etc. We still have to treat that from a cardiology standpoint, but we do have to get her linked up with electrophysiology to see if they can control the part with the conduction of the heart, which will in turn probably help us, eventually be able to come off of all these modalities that we're prescribing for congestive heart failure. So it's so funny because I put like a little disclosure at the top. Although congestive heart failure is the working diagnosis discussed, my preceptor requested that I take a scientific rationale approach from the ectopic atrial tachycardia. So I know that just sounded like so much stuff. So basically what I'm saying is, although my note is supposed to be on congestive heart failure, I'm going to talk a little bit about this tachycardia because it's interesting. That's what I'm saying. So that is my little tidbit for the day. And that's like a 10-minute video right there. So this vlog is probably going to be closed soon because I feel bad leaving y'all on here for all long. But that's the 2 patient situations that I have going on right now, and it's very interesting. So I think I am going to do this when I do my clinical notes with you guys, because I know you guys like me talking about the patient stuff that I see outpatient, and I also get helped. Does that make sense? You guys also help me by talking out loud to you complete my note, because I'm talking it out and then I'm like, okay, so this is what we got to do. That's what we got to go, etc. So yes, we will be doing this more often. So shout out to y'all for telling me y'all like the patient stories. But let me get back to try to finish this because it's only 4:18. I told y'all it's so dark outside. It makes me feel like it's like 7. So let me try to get this done, because I think if I'm able to get my clinical note done, I will do a little bit more reading, and then I want to try to do these lipstick swatches for y'all on TikTok. If you don't follow me on TikTok, what are you doing? Follow me, because they be lit, okay? But I filmed them earlier this week, but I want to refilm them because I didn't like the way they turned out. I feel like they can be way more bomb. So that's my goal today, and that's how I motivated myself to get my work done. If I get my work done, I can play. I can have fun with my social media stuff. It's my outlet. It's my way of getting away from the books, but the books got to come first, because otherwise you're going to be nobody's nurse practitioner, okay? Okay, guys, I'm going to show you real quick how I make my computer read back out loud what I actually typed in. One, if you have the new Microsoft Word, which I have on my iMac, you can do this right in Microsoft Word. You don't have to do all this. But one of my tips in writing for me is I use the website Grammarly. And what I do is every time I get ready to submit something, I use the free version. If you pay for the Upgraded version, I think you get a lot more like grammar tips and tricks, but I pay for the free one and it's enough to at least get me through. And I have a funny feeling, guys, that a lot of our teachers use this when they grade our papers, just saying. So anywho, uploaded my document to here. I right click. If you scroll down, it says speech, and you can say start speaking.
Plan. Although congestive heart failure is the working diagnosis and will be discussed at length in this plan and scientific rationale, my preceptor requested that I take the scientific.
So there you go. So I'm going to let this finish reading. I do this in my papers. I do this in my clinical notes. I do this in my case studies. It's a good way for me to hear what I wrote out loud because you guys know I struggle with the Jersey Southern dialect, I like to say. I always tell you guys my parents are both Bama born and raised. They both still have heavy accents with heavy didactic of like Alabama. So I acquired that, and unfortunately sometimes when I write, I'm so passionate that Southern dialect, ain't nothing wrong with it, but it sometimes gets into my papers and I think it kind of takes over. So I use this so I can hear my stuff out loud, and that's about it. So I'm gonna finish this, guys, and then I'll talk to you in a little bit.